All right, I'm Ben McLeish, and as Harvey Milk would say, I'm here to change your mind. Who here, hands up, whoever at this point can understand and agrees with what our movement is about and who would describe themselves as on board? Yeah, it's the guys who came along anyway, isn't it? Who would say that maybe in principle they understand the ideas and they understand the logic behind it, but maybe there's a couple of, they have some questions that need ironing out, they're not quite sure, there's a kind of a nagging feeling they're not quite there yet. Yeah, that's good, it's healthy. It's healthy. And who here thinks it's a utopianist cult with plans for world domination? We've kind of covered that one already, but yeah, it's not that. Here are some common objections and responses to a resource-based economy. First off, it's not a utopia, as Tom said. There's no such thing as a utopia. We aren't under the illusion that we can create a perfect world. There's no such thing as perfect in a practical world. What we are proposing, however, is a whole lot better than what we have now. There will always be problems, but a global emergent system where innovation, change and development is centre stage rather than being hamstrung by the profit mechanisms and interests of established power structures of any kind is going to be more able to meet and solve these problems than our current so-called established societies. This is not communism or socialism or any of the isms out there, quite apart from the fact that no two people here will agree what communism is, since it's a high-order abstraction with no real-life reference, and with multiple varied real-world versions. Even the most boiled-down version of Karl Marx's philosophy was still based on money, differential advantage, profit, earnings, various degrees of qualities of life, and thus social stratification was built into its foundations. Communism also presupposes property. Property, if you remember, is an outgrowth of scarcity. Because there may not be enough to go around, you need to own things to deter their use by others, to reserve, essentially, or guarantee the things you need and are now conditioned to want. Communism also didn't have access to the technologies to create abundance, or certainly didn't envision or strive for a world of deliberate abundance, and didn't imagine a world where all labour was automated, all necessities were supplied free of charge, and where the structure of society is a globally integrated system. Marx never considered the global economy based on resources. It's just a monetary system with slightly more or less government control, coupled with varying degrees of romanticism of labour or the labour class, which ironically they then want to get rid of. The fundamentals are the same as any other monetary system. What we propose and advocate lies outside the logical reference of this box of monetaryism. The box itself, we feel, is structurally unsound. Well, if it's not communism, it sounds like a commune. Well, again, a commune is defined by the deliberate artificial separation that we're trying to get past. We cannot simply separate ourselves from society and build a resource-based economy. The logic of living according to planetary resources and total efficiency cannot be anything other than a global, all-encompassing operation, one system. The logic of efficiency demands it. Multiple societies attempting to operate separately would require duplication of effort, resources and waste, as we see in the current system. It would also create competition, which would ultimately create war, as we fight for resources, space, and so on. And you know what else? Everything that divides us, whether it be race, religion or national identity, political affiliation, social classes, are false divisions invented or promoted by our respective societies to get you to buy in and not defect from that country or society that you happen to be in. Why? It's about maintaining group economy, stability in the face of scarcity, real or artificial. In geographic boundaries, which are at least based in spatial reality, are fading fast as we improve transport technologies. We are, and always have been, one global human race. We must live as such to ensure our survival at the maximum quality of life possible. Climbing into a forest, shedding all the benefits of technology and its advances, and reviving esoteric English witchcraft religions isn't going to do anything except devolve us, and only temporarily, before necessity forces that separatist society back into long-term contact with other human civilizations. There really isn't anywhere left in the world for people to be able to do that anyway. Life on this planet tends towards complexity and sophistication. Communes are artificial, isolated, unstable, and achieve nothing but to stave off large-scale social interactions for brief periods, mostly due to protest or divisionary beliefs based on heritage notions. Perhaps you think that competition would be a better ideology to base society on. Competition somehow speeds up innovation, makes pricing fair, provides choice and so on, but it's generally a good thing. Well, the concept of resource-based economy is based on the same logic as the human body, as you heard Jack say in that video. We're going to decide tomorrow that it's the most important organ in the body and demanded more of the resources, oxygen, than the liver, or the left lung is more important than the right, and demanded most of the resources itself. You rot away in a month. Animals live in harmony with their surroundings, not in competition with them. Nature has examples of competition within it, but in areas where food and resources are abundant for animals, you find they don't fight over food. Nature is symbiotic. We must become symbiotic too. To be in competition with each other and attempting to dominate nature and each other is to ensure our own demise. Nature, however, will carry on just fine without us. What I hear quite a lot of the time, and it's a fair question, is that what would I do in a resource-based economy? Where there's no traditional work patterns or money, what would I do? It's a valid question, as we can only presume to imagine a massive void of inertia where once a 9 to 5 stood in its place. Oddly, I'm actually asked this by friends of mine who work in the arts, or who have expensive, time-consuming or unusual hobbies, or cab drivers who are amateur scientists. Why do you work in the arts? Why do you have hobbies? Why do you do favours for others? Why do you give to charity? Why did you come here tonight? Why do you do all of these things? You did all of these things absent the desire to make money, especially if you work in arts. How much more could you do without monetary restrictions you have now, and in which you work in spite of? In low-power countries where people walk for hours to get water, one could imagine them thinking, well, if I could just turn on a tap and get the water instantly and not spend 4 or 5 hours a day getting the water, what would I do in my spare time? It's the same kind of logic that people can't seem to make that jump. It's a little bit like being in a cell all of your life, a 5 by 5 foot cell, offering a prisoner a way out of a cell and then turn to you and say, well, what do I do now? A related point, what about motivation to do anything if you aren't essentially forced by economic pressures as we are now? What will motivate us? Well, your motivation to recycle is not profit-driven. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It costs you money and time when you only factor in the drive to the bottle bank. Or Nikola Tesla, his motivation to create free energy the world over was certainly not profit-driven. In fact, JP Morgan, his backer, had to shut it down because of the impact it would have on the ability to profit from it. Or what about this? The world has written a continually growing emergent encyclopedia of 50 million articles in 272 languages in 9 years. Money has nothing to do with it, except for when they run out of it periodically and have to ask you for more via those wonderful banner ads that we're subjected to. Imagine what Wikipedia would look like if they didn't have monetary restrictions to deal with, if money were literally no object. Imagine what the world would look like if money were no object. We already have the motivation, and it's more than money. What we are suggesting is a world where this plays the centre stage. Let's stick with the Wikipedia example. Who runs the societal infrastructure in a resource-based economy, and could they take it over? Two big ones I get a lot, and they're valid questions as well, because people are worried about being dominated, although it's quite ironic that we live in this system now where we clearly are dominated, and we're kind of worried that we would be. I find that really bizarre, but it's okay, because it feels a little bit cynical to think that way all the time, even though it might be true. Well, at its core, a resource-based economy system, very much like Wikipedia, would need very few people to service any parts of the system that are not already self-repairing. Essentially, systems maintenance. Are those people more powerful than those who live and thrive on the system without direct linking to those kind of interfaces? Could they take it over? Well, are the individuals who run Wikipedia powerful? Could they take over Wikipedia? There's nothing to gain by attempting to own or control Wikipedia. It's a social system run in spite of the profit mechanisms and power. What benefits us all, including those who maintain aspects of the infrastructure, would only hinder everyone, including those maintainers, were it compromised. The question of people taking over a society seems rather a moot point. Right now we live in a kind of society that can be taken over and is regularly taken over by corporate interests, political powers and groups of wealthy people. It is this precise mechanism of dominance that is absent from a resource-based economy in the same way it is absent from Wikipedia or any similar non-monetary resource. Here's a good one. Who makes the decisions in a resource-based economy? This question actually needs to be rephrased. It's not who makes the decisions, but how are the decisions arrived at?